collegiate esports, like stepping into that realm, literally was like a whiteboard, and I could just figure out what I wanted to do. And although, like, being so honest, like I did struggle to sort of figure out where I fit in, like at least I knew that like within collegiate esports at like my school, right, I had it figured out there. I'm Catherine Hebert. I work at Pivot Agency, which is a sports marketing, travel, and lifestyle company. And I'm their influencer coordinator for gaming and creators. So I get the opportunity to help with the sales and activations and campaigns that our creators are doing. And then also I get to help on the property side, just because the company has, different branches. I do help a little bit with our sports clients. But yeah, that's a little about me. My path, like pretty much everybody else's path, is very untraditional. I found that a lot of people in the industry, it's always different, right? And I think that's one of the cool things about what we do. I would say the initial spark started when I was auditioning for colleges for musical theater, all the way, back my senior year of high school. We were coming out of COVID, but like it had been at least like a year, right? People were trying to get back into the flow of things. And I just really loved gaming. And I loved watching people game, right? So I got into the whole like Twitch streaming thing, right? For a period of time there, and I started playing video games, built my own PC. I was like, oh, I love this. And so from there, when I was auditioning for schools for musical theater, I was like, okay, like maybe there's like esports clubs, right? Like maybe there's gaming clubs. Like what does that look like? And going to school for musical theater is very specific. Like you have a certain set of requirements that you're looking for at each program, right? They're like ranked by the percentage of how many students they accept, right? It's a very, intense process, right? And so I was just lucky enough that like when I did get accepted to schools, some of them had esports clubs, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something with this. And so when I went to Emerson, I immediately joined Emerson Esports and got involved as their like executive assistant, had no idea what I was doing. And then just from there went on to be like head of events, right? Then vice president, then president. And I was like, the entire time I was just like having fun with gaming and esports, right? Like I was just having fun learning like what the industry looked like. And then eventually it got to a point where I was like, okay, I have to like do something with this. And so I started branching out in my junior year and working for organizations in the space, right? Which is how I got involved with College Esports News. I think I saw Sen tweeted something like looking for volunteers or something for project managers, talent, whatever. And I was at a point where like people always saw me as talent, right? Because it was like really easy for me to talk and I felt really comfortable in front of a camera. And so in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I can do the whole talent thing, but I really do like the managerial side of things. And I knew I liked that from being president of the org at my school. So I was like, let's try this. Let's like see how this goes. And so I applied to be a project manager and you guys accepted me, which is awesome. I was like, yes, let's go. And so for about I worked on Valorant and I worked on the Aurora series a little bit. And from there, I actually, towards the end of my time, slowly started transitioning into talent again, because I was like, I do want to keep this side of me fresh and alive, right? In esports, it's never a bad thing to know how to do multiple things. Like we know that. And so, I also started volunteering with COPE, the Coalition of Parents in Esports, and they had a podcast they were hosting, right? So like they were like, you should be the podcast host. I was like, okay. And so I was just doing a bunch of things because why not, right? I saw an application to volunteer at PAX. Why not, right? Like it was just all these opportunities that I was like, let's just do it. There's no harm. And then eventually I just kept with that outreach, kept taking opportunities as they came. And then eventually I interned with Luminosity Gaming my senior year of college as their esports and talent intern. And it went from being like esports to talent, and I worked more with talent. And I was like, oh, I actually really like this. And I think that this is an area of the industry that's super interesting because it's a big money driver, right? Like content creation is a huge money driver for so many like esports orgs. I started wanting to work with talent, and that's when I applied to be the influencer coordinator at Pivot, because I had a connection to my manager, Matt, who's an ex-COD pro player. He's incredible at his job, right? Like he is someone that when we talk about that, like, how did you get into esports? Like he literally went from being like pro player to manager to this crazy sales guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like, he had a roster of creators that he worked with already. And, you know, there are people that he's, you know, known through the space. And I'm really thankful that he trusted me to just jump in and, you know, dive in and work with these creators. But that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And, you know, where that takes me and what that, you know, because it's just like, that's like, it's the bottom run, right? Influencer coordinator is the bottom run. And so where that takes me, I don't know. Learning to translate my skills from my work at College Esports News into my resume was probably one of the most important skills that I learned how to do, because I didn't know how to talk about what I did before. I was like, I would just be like, yeah, I like project managed. Like, no, we had to like source the editors, source the writers. We had to, you know, we had like a team of people. We had to get, you know, there were deadlines that we had to hit. So we had to manage the projects that were happening all at one time. It very much set me up for that whole like time management and organizational aspect of like what I do right now. And that's the sort of stuff that I put on my resume, right? I learned, I tampered with project management software. So I took that as an opportunity to learn. And I think that being in the position of working within an organization, like as a volunteer with a team of people who like want you to just kind of run creatively, gives you the opportunity to try things. So I think there had been situations in the past for me where I had not allocated enough time for there to be mistakes and for there, you know what I'm saying, for there to be, need to be quick fixes. In that sense, like it really taught me to think like 10 steps ahead. And I think that also adds in to that management aspect, right? But when it comes to like writing everything down, like on my resume, just like really thinking about like from a bird's eye view, like the amount of people that, you know, we worked with, right? Like all the different tournaments that we worked with. And we actually break it down, like the details of the things that, you know, I was doing as a project manager or that I was doing when I was, you know, working as talent, like all of those things absolutely are qualified things to go on your resume, right? Managing people, right? Tracking timelines, right? Like sourcing editors, writers, you know what I'm saying? All of that is qualifications that should go on your resume. And I think the different projects at College Esports News definitely like opened the scope to like be able to learn how to like write about yourself, right? And let people know like what you actually did. So that was like a huge takeaway from Sen that I didn't really know how to do before, you know? My junior year, right, when I was putting myself out there in any way that I could, I was invited to speak on the Women in Gaming panel for Intel at DreamHack. And let me just put this into perspective. Like, I didn't actually like really know anybody that was like going to DreamHack. And so I was like, this is terrifying, but this is an extremely amazing opportunity. And so I went, I got to speak on the panel and I got to meet other incredible women in the space. And I just connected with so many different people. And I think like the act of like putting myself out there, going somewhere where I didn't really know anybody 100%, right? Like I just put myself out there with the hopes to connect with more people in the space. And like it turned out to be the most rewarding thing in the world. I'm shocked that I did that now, sitting here now, like the idea of like going to like a random like event, like a networking event, like that's kind of scary. Like I'll do it, but it is kind of scary. And so I don't know what adrenaline I was running on, but it was definitely like the rush of the industry, right? And so I did that. And I think like that to me is just a huge testament to, you know, who I am at my core as a person and, you know, the connections that I look to build with people, even if I have no idea where I'm going, you know? If there's one thing I could do differently and, you know, start over my journey, I think I would allow myself to try more things outside of the industry specifically and follow my creativity a little bit more. And I this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently because I think I've always had this perspective of like, yes, I'll take whatever opportunity comes my way, esports related or not. But like, I really put a lot of pressure on myself to figure out what the right thing for me was. And I would really always try to do what I thought I was going to like to do in the industry as much as I could. But I think I did block myself off from like certain opportunities, like running social media, right? In esports. Like I didn't pursue that because I was like, well, people already do that. That's like, you know, a thing I know so many people do. Everybody on social media I know is like basically a social media like guru, like I don't know if I could do that. So I just never put myself in a position to try. And I think if I could go back and do it again, I would tell myself, hey, just try exploring some more things, right? Because even doing those things outside of esports and gaming would help me learn what I can transfer over, right? And it would even make me a stronger candidate for any position across the board in any industry if I have multiple different types of experience, right? In that field. And I really do like working with talent now, right? Of course, but it did take me a really long time to get to that point because I just didn't want to try it in any capacity earlier. I don't know if I'm right for that. And so I would just block myself off completely. And so if I could go back and do it again, I would just tell myself just try, because you don't know what can happen. And whether it's in esports and gaming or another industry, you don't know what could happen, and the opportunity and the things that you'll learn can transfer all around. I would say my number one piece of advice is to push back against fear. And I know that that's said a lot, right? But the moments when I found myself taking the most opportunities coming my way, the moments that I reflect and I think, I'm how did I come about this opportunity? How can I help students locate the same opportunities, right? And at one point it sort of clicked to me that it was less about me stumbling upon them randomly or through networking. It was specifically because I wasn't afraid, and I know that's kind of that idea of just try, but I think you'll be surprised that when, you just say, okay, I don't care what anybody else thinks, I'm gonna post this thing on Twitter, and it starts getting interaction. That wouldn't have happened if you didn't post on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? I'm terrified of, I talk about this with my wonderful mentor whom you know, Sari. She mentioned to me before, I was talking about networking. I was telling students to just network is horrible, because what do you mean you're just telling them to go talk to random people? That freaks me out. But for some reason people think that I'm good at networking, but it's because I decided hey, I'm gonna go to this event alone, but they have a volunteer application, so I'm gonna volunteer. Although I'm scared, I'm just gonna go do it because I think that it will just give me a reason to be in that place. And so I did it, and I met people because I felt I had a reason to be there. You know what I'm saying? And not that you can't go to a networking event and just have a reason to be there, but it just helped me. And I never would have done that if I wasn't this terrifies me, but I just need to do it because what the heck? Who cares if there's a young college student there looking to get into the industry? I'm just gonna say hi to everyone, get to know some people, that sort of thing. And I think that idea of pushing back on fear is what will separate you from other people, right? Because the ones that get opportunities, it's not because they're any they do anything differently than you. They probably just decided to send a cold outreach email. You know what I'm saying? That would even freak me out until I just started my job where I do outreach. You know what I'm saying? Previously I was no one's gonna respond to me, but it's no, they actually might, and you don't know until you try. And so I would say my biggest piece of advice for students is to push back and do the things that you're afraid of, even if it's hard. If you're overthinking that LinkedIn post, just post it. Just post it. I'm horrible at it myself, but I find that in the moments that I'm no, I'm just gonna do it, are the most rewarding moments, I think about what collegiate esports means to me way more, I think, than I admit. At the heart of it, people talk about it being a community, right? A place for students to feel they have a space for them. I really think about collegiate esports as sort of a drawing board for you and your future and what you want to do, probably because it's so non-traditional. And in a lot of other industries, right? I always talk about my musical theater background, it was incredibly structured, right? I knew exactly how to audition for college programs when I was a junior in high school, right? And then when I was a freshman, we were making reels for acting, singing, and dancing. We were starting to build those out freshman year. We knew exactly how to go into an audition room and exactly how to talk to each person in the audition room. Like, it was extremely structured, always. And the path to like how you get where you want to get, very much like that. And I think collegiate esports, like stepping into that realm, literally was like a whiteboard, and I could just figure out what I wanted to do. And although, like, being so honest, like I did struggle to sort of figure out where I fit in, like at least I knew that like within collegiate esports at like my school, right, I had it figured out there, right? Like I never felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And like, of course I had doubts sometimes, right? Like, can I even lead a program? Like, can I even advocate for a club at my school? Like, of course there's those questions, right? But at the end of the day, like, that was always a home. And I think having that home and the ability to know that like I can start paving my future from it in a way unlike any of my other friends, if I chose to, like, was really important to me. And I think it's that space and that environment that collegiate is right now that allows for that. And that's why we'll see so many people doing so many things and paving their own path. And like, I frequently forget that like, that's what I'm still doing, right? Like I forget that like I'm still in the process of paving my path. And I started that like line when I was in collegiate esports because it allowed me to do that, you know? So I think I would say like, that's what it means to me.
A huge thank you to College Esports News for the opportunity to share my story.